let's switch over because we're talking about the Western Conference. The other news happening in the Western Conference is that the associate GM of the Rockets earlier last month accepted the job to be the the president of operations for the Kings. Now we've got the GM in Houston, Darryl Morey, is stepping down. There is now an opening. There's the coach opening, the GM opening. Dave, the first question I want to ask with this is, how does this change the coaching hire for the Rockets? Do they now have to pivot and go, we got to hire a GM first before we even think about what coach we want?
Don't hire Stan Van as a GM coach. Learn from Detroit. Do not make yourselves suffer like they did.
Is he even in the running for the Rockets?
He is.
Is he? I thought it was Jeff Van.
Jeff Van's the leader right now.
Okay.
But Stan Van, I wouldn't put it out of anyone's fucking, I'm just saying, don't give the dual powers. Mm-hmm. No one deserves that in the NBA outside of Pop. And even Pop, I don't know that it's a great move, but when it comes down to it, you need to find the GM first, I believe. I think that they've got the guy in-house already.
Okay.
Their assistant GM was someone who was interested in moving up the ladder. The name was super familiar. Now I'm blanking on it. But yeah, I think that's probably the route they're going to go. They're going to stick in-house for that. I don't know if there's any big GM names out there. I'm not familiarized myself. Mm-hmm. We've been going so far into coaching trees that that's all my brain has room for right now. So
I'm trying to look up the front office for the Rockets for you.
Okay. But yeah, as far as this goes, I think, if the guy who is the assistant right now slides up to full GM, then they'll be fine. I think their head coach pick is still fine. It's just a matter of the GM's job is to put the best roster not on the court. That's the wrong word. Put the best roster under your team's banner. And then the coach has to figure out how those pieces fit together.
There's two assistant GMs right now. There's Scott Manley and then Eli Wittes are the two that they have down.
I think it was Scott.
Okay.
I think Scott was the one they were looking at for the GM role.
Because Eli is also the executive vice president of basketball operations.
Ooh. Then maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I'd read a rumor that one of their assistants was probably getting bumped up.
Yeah.
Point being, it's their job to be talent evaluators, contract guys. They got to do a little bit of everything. Yeah. And they got to be the bad guy sometimes.
Does Darryl Morey get scooped up by anybody?
I don't know if Darryl Morey wants to right now. I think he wants to take a year off.
Okay.
Dan Antoni, not coaching. Mm-hmm. Darryl Morey, not GMing.
Yeah.
You see it, Tanner?
Some job opens up. Darryl Morey gets hires Dan Antoni.
Dan Antoni, I'm pretty sure, hates the shit out of Darryl Morey right now for sticking him with Russell Westbrook.
Good point.
It's just that was clearly not the plan. That does not fit Dan Antoni's scheme.
Yeah.
It was definitely a downgrade as far as they were concerned. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he was able to pull that string, you're like, fuck centers. Yeah. How about we just go get a bunch of wings and play wing basketball? Mm-hmm. And Darryl Morey's like, we could try. Sure, let's give it a shot. And he engineered some creative moves and got them Rocco. And honestly, they looked incredible with that group out there. Mm-hmm. They literally, injuries took them down. They lost momentum, and then fucking double teaming James Harden. Who knew he'd give up so quick?
Yeah.
Point being, Darryl Morey.
Dave's like, I'm still not over the Rockets and how they.
I'm really not over the Rockets.
Dave's like, they were my team, man.
But Darryl Morey's a creative guy. Mm-hmm. I think that if he wants a job, he can have a job. It's not a situation where he's going to get blackballed out of the league for killing the center position in the NBA or anything like that. He clearly was working with his head coach on that one to put together a roster that he liked. So I think take time away for a year. Be with your family. If an interesting job opens up that you are intrigued by and you want to have a run on, go for it. I mean, could he be a president of basketball operations somewhere? 100%. 100% Darryl Morey could do that. So that's the thing. I think it's just right now, everything is kind of filled in. I don't worry about that. I think he's going to spend a year with family, do his stuff. If he's got basketball still on his mind, there's a role for him in about 30 out of 30 teams. Yeah. Well, 29 out of 30 teams.
29 out of 30 teams. I'm also seeing a lot of articles right now, mainly, okay, what's next for the Rockets? Because GM position is open as of right now. Head coaching position is open.
Yep.
And like
Jeff Van and who's the other guy who's in the discussion for their head coach?
Ty Lue was. It was Ty Lue and Jeff Van. And that's why it's like,
Jeff Van?
That's why I feel like, is it just Jeff Van? Like, is Jeff Van now got the job? Like, to me, this is the most intriguing team in this offseason because it's, do they just say, well, fuck it, we're going to go with Jeff Van Gundy because him and Ty Lue were at the top of our list, and Jeff Van just interviewed either yesterday or Tuesday. Do they now pivot and say, hey, new GM coming in, even if it's bumping one of ours up, different kind of, I don't know if that would be too much of a change to where they would be like, okay, let's look at some of these assistants now that are out there. The Becky Hammonds, the Wes from Denver.
I like the idea of putting the coaching hunt on hold while you find a GM, because the GM is really the guy who's got the plan for your team. I know basketball operations president usually is number one for that, but like you said, if we go to the GM role and we go, okay, there's about 1 billion trade rumors for Russell Westbrook being moved out of town. Where do we want to go with this team? Is this a team where you think that we can just do very little work and run back to the playoffs, compete, and think that a best of series, we give it another shot and we could win out?
Yeah.
Or do you think this is a team that needs a major retooling and go, hey, we love you, Russ, but you're going to go to New York. We're going to get Mitch Robb a first this year, a first in 2022, and something else, and maybe a second on top of that, and we'll take that deal. You know, it's like Julius Randle maybe. You know, it's just you just throw a bunch of resources back their way so they can have some firepower. They have a traditional center now. You know, let's see what the Rockets can do with that kind of a lineup. Or do they just go, hey, James Harden probably won't want to re-sign here. Russell Westbrook probably won't want to re-sign here. Let's do what the Thunder did, but slower.
Yeah.
Let's maybe ship off Russ this year. Let's wait and see what Harden's situation looks like. You know, they've got a billion options. That's the upside. You've got 2 superstars that are wanted on almost any team in the league. You just have to figure out, do you want to build a traditional team? Do you want to go for, you know, this small ball as your final answer? Do you think that that's the best route to go with the current level of competition in the West right now? Having to deal with an Anthony Davis, having to deal with perhaps a James Wiseman coming into the Golden State Warriors this year. You know, having to deal with all the bigs like Nikola Jokic out there. Having to deal with Zion Williamson for the next decade. Like, how are you going to answer those questions? And those are things that like the GM has to think out. And I would love to know what route they're going to take. And I think that you can't hire a coach until you know that, because Jeff Van Gundy might be like, I'm ready to roll it back. I love these guys you've got. I'm gonna make things just turn up to 10. I'm just gonna dial them up a little bit, and we are ready to compete right now. And you might have a GM who's like, so Russell Westbrook traded. Have fun with 5 players from the Knicks and a bunch of draft picks. Like,
and plus, we don't know. Maybe Jeff Van was. I think Jeff Van's the kind of guy that, like, in an interview, will not hold back. Like, he's not going to be the guy to hold back to get a job.
Van Gundy and rant.
To where I expect Jeff Van to come in and go, hey, Harden and Westbrook ain't going to work. We got to get rid of one of them. Like, that's the level. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he came in and said something like that. And pulling up an article from ABC Houston, they actually got the name, Dave. So, number one, Morey's going to remain in an advisory role for a short period to assist the Rockets' completion of their head coaching search. The Rockets are planning to promote Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations Raphael Stone to General Manager. Stone has played a significant part in the Rockets team building throughout his tenure with the organization. Houston is also promoting Eli Wittis to Assistant General Manager, sources say. So it looks like both of the basketball operations guys that are the executive vice presidents of BO is basically, hey, one's going to be the GM, one's going to be the assistant GM. And to me, reading that, it goes along the lines of, like you said, to where it's like, so does that mean Russ and Harden are safe to where it's like we put this team together. We were, of course, like Morey was the GM, but we had our hands in building this team, and we believe in this team. We're just going to run it back then. Like, is that what that says?
I think it's a question we don't know the answer to. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know how much of a weight and a voice those guys had in a lot of the decisions. Like, we all know how Darryl Morey feels about advanced metrics in basketball. Mm-hmm. He is one of the guys who is so far into analytics that you love him as a nerd. Like, he's absolutely the guy who's fascinated by numbers.
The basketball purists so hate him. If it's basketball for the sake of it's almost like I feel like you get this more in football, but you get it in basketball too, where it's like the analytics don't say anything. You just play football or you just play basketball. It's how the ball bounces. How'd that work out for
baseball? You went Moneyball, and everybody realized
baseball is like the thing I will always remember. And of course, I'm talking about a video game here. One of my sister's ex-boyfriends, his name was Vince. He says, I hate baseball. And I go, why? He goes, because it doesn't matter about the fucking game. He goes, whenever I play a video game that's baseball, you never have to care about anything but just looking at stats. Just give me the guys with the best stats, crunch some numbers, boom, there's your baseball team. That's all baseball is probability.
That's how baseball works, baby. Did Moneyball teach us nothing?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, no, I totally I think that he's a a wizard in his own right. So how much voice those two other guys in the front office had, hard to say. Hard to say if they followed him or not, I think the guy that everybody's kind of looking at as the odd man out right now is Eric Gordon. Mm-hmm. I think that Rocco and PJ Tucker are a phenomenal duo and absolutely need to be staples on this team moving forward. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, schmeh,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, this is the most interesting team to me in the offseason just because of what are they going to do moving forward. But